The United States people have expressed mixed views after President Joe Biden announced his intention to run for a second term. Some believe that his retirement is long overdue, while others still believe he's the best man to lead the country. Biden is 80 years old this year, and this could set him up for a rematch, basically, with his predecessor, Donald Trump.
Yes, I am happy with this President Biden at this time, and I think it's a good alternative for the next election.
He's too old. He needs to hang it up. We need someone younger.
I feel like he's the best chance of beating Trump, so I'm pleased that he's running.
I feel like he's sold America to China. I think that, all his years in politics, he's been a liar.
Let's talk more then about Joe Biden's intention to run for a second term as U.S. President. We're joined tonight by Wits University honorary international relations professor John Stremlau. Prof, a very good evening to you. Grateful for your time as always. So is age the biggest obstacle, if you will, to Joe Biden's successful run for a second term?
Well, Joe Biden has a line that says, "Don't compare me to the almighty. He compared me to the alternative." And if the alternative is Donald Trump, it certainly is in Africa's interest to see Biden beat Trump. And it's certainly in my interest to see Biden beat Trump. And I think it's in America's interest to see Biden beat Trump, because Biden reflects the diversity of American life that is increasingly becoming a minority-majority country of diversity, rather than make America great again for whom? For white, Christian, rural Americans. That's not the future. The future is with the Democratic Party.
But does the future have to come with someone who's already been so criticized for, his age without being ageist? And does that mean that there are no younger options in the Democratic Party who would be able to do exactly what you've just outlined?
Well, look, I'm in my 80th year, and I don't have the bandwidth to be president. So I have sympathy for anyone who says that you shouldn't have a guy who's 82 and will be 86 when he steps down. Although Donald Trump will be 80 in his 80s when he steps down, because he's 77 now, 76, 77. And the president of Zimbabwe is 80. And so I like to see younger men. I like to see younger people. And Kamala Harris would be a terrific president in my view, but does she have the political base? And you can't fight someone with nobody. So if it's Trump and Biden, I'll take it with a deep fear that Trump may prevail, because the Republicans are overrated and overrepresented under the arcane U.S. Constitution. But by and large, if the incumbent wants to run, no one is going to challenge that.
And if this
from within his party.
If this does ultimately become a rematch between Trump and Biden, are the stakes higher than in the last election?
The stakes are extremely high. It is for the heart and soul of America. Is America going to be a country that belongs to all who live there and united in its diversity, or is it going to be a country for the white minority, increasingly so? And the white minority is fearful, I think, of the change. And it's also divided between those who are college educated and tend to vote Democratic, and those that don't have a college education and tend to vote Republican right now, which is a large segment of the population, of course. So, I've looked at the polling, and you can slice it and dice it. We don't know what's going to happen between now and 2024, of course, any more than we do here in South Africa, between now and 2024. But at the moment, it seems that the matchup between Trump and Biden is almost a certainty.
And Biden's campaign messaging this time around is about finishing the job. How much more work does he still have to do based on what he's achieved in this first term and what is still outstanding, the areas of disappointment for some people who backed him in 2020?
Well, he can't finish the job, because no one can finish the job of a democracy. It's a work in progress always. But it would make a big difference to beat the MAGA faction, the Make America Great faction, that is so instrumental in getting Donald Trump through the primaries and ultimately the election, because since he was president, he's probably not going to be seriously challenged, although there are several Republicans who are running. But Biden is not selling enough, in my view, his accomplishments under very difficult circumstances, and now he's got a narrow Republican majority in the House of Representatives that's frustrating his effort to raise the debt ceiling that could impact on South Africa and the world, but also on American voters. He's not, 70% of the Americans wish he wouldn't run, but they like him better, I think, than Donald Trump.
You mentioned South Africa and the broader continent as far as which president would be better suited for those relations. We know that during the Trump era, there's basically no relationship between the Trump administration and African states. Under Biden's leadership, we've seen even a visit by Antony Blinken here in South Africa recently. So if Biden does come back, how much more should be extracted from that relationship? How much mutual benefit is there for Africa to draw from the Americans?
Well, I hate to throw the ball back into Africa's court, but African agency is important, and African agency in reaching out to the diaspora, which is, after all, the sixth region of the African Union, and it is extremely important to Joe Biden's reelection. It was extremely important to get him the nomination in 2020. He's running with a descendant on the paternal side of African continent, of the diaspora, a former slave in that family, and then on the maternal side, an Indian. So it's a perfect. Kamala Harris is a perfect exemplar of where America is heading if the Democrats can remain predominant, and if the Republican throwback and nationalism is not. But that's. African countries that have members of their society becoming naturalized Americans have an enormous leverage. Just think of the Irish, and think of the Poles, and think of the other European countries that are represented in America. The bonds are real. Israel, of course, is a classic example, extreme example of influence and leverage on the part of a foreign country who has nationals in America that still have a bond to the homeland.
Let me ask you then about Kamala Harris, because she's confirmed that she will be Biden's running mate. She's currently VP, Vice President. Career-wise, if indeed she does harbor ambitions to one day become the first woman president of the United States, of color at least, how much does this hold her in good stead, running with Biden for a second term? Is it the best step for her?
Once she got to be vice president, there is no place to go but up. And whether she can parry this into, particularly if Biden gets a second term, there is a tendency to be reactionary on going to the other party in American politics generally. But the Republican Party is in such disarray that it's conceivable, and Kamala Harris would be the odds-on leading candidate in 2028, and that's for sure. And she's still a relatively young woman, so she would have a terrific run as president, and I think would be an outstanding president. But I thought Hillary Clinton would be an outstanding first female president of the United States, and Kamala Harris would have a double being a woman and a person of color. But it is too impossible to forecast that. But she's in the best inside track for becoming the successor to Joe Biden. Joe Biden could falter in the course of the second term, and she would then become president, and then would have an even greater edge in 2028.
Professor John Stremlau, good to speak to you as always. Thank you for your time tonight.